Hi, welcome to the Unbuckle video tutorial on Illustrator and the Mesh Tool. Mesh Tool can be found over in the toolbar, and now this is in 221, but you can do it in 220, 219, etc. And you can find it over here. Here's the Mesh Tool. Now, there's no functionality, so you can double click it, all you like, nothing will pop up. Simply a basic tool that you can use to create some very interesting designs, such as designs here. Now, I'm just going to run through a couple of these things now. I'm just going to remove that, and remove that, and I'm going to remove that. Now, it's quite possible I'm doing this. I'm going to find certain tools work better than others. So I haven't explored every single possible combination. Some will not work. So first thing to do, just go over here, and I'm just going to select rectangle. You can use any shape you want, perfectly reasonable. Polygon tools, ellipse tools, but rectangles just as good as any to experiment with. Oh, now that's got obviously a fill that I don't want, so that's a fill. You can fill a design with the mesh. I'm just going to remove that. It lets me. Yep. I want to start with a solid colour. So a solid colour there. Now the key panels I think are probably in this, swatches and properties. I might not even use them, but they're quite useful. And you can find them via the window, properties, and I say navigator swatches down there. So with this, what you can do, just go here to the mesh tool, and then you can add some points to this, some mesh points, better a word, or nodes. So just click on that current path, and you can see one there, and you can move that mesh if you want to do that. You can move it straight, we'll just leave it like that for now. What you can also do, you can add more than one. And you don't have to, you can click on the line itself or click elsewhere. But before you do anything else, you might want to change the colour. But I'm just going to click there. Now what I'm going to go to swatches, and I'm going to select the colour. So I'm going to go for yellow. And straight away you can see the current swatch is added to that node, the current node I'm currently on. So if I go up to another one, I'm just going to go up here now, and I can click there. Then I can just add yellow to that, and you see it's just limited to that area there of influence. Outside of it is still the same colour as before. So if you've just added yellow there, all the rest will be red or black or whatever colour you've obviously got there. Now if I go over to click another point, so I go there, and you can see what happens. It sort of bleeds in from that existing area and all the way over to this one, which is, see, I've added another mesh point. But I can change colour, so I don't have to go with that colour. I could go maybe with green. Now what I can do now, maybe I'm just going to go somewhere else. Let's just go over this side. You can see now you can make very localised points or localised colour design just by just clicking there, maybe go around the edge. Perfectly reasonable with a particular colour. And you see every time you click, you will add this line this way and that way. So you add a row and you add a column. Basically, it's exactly the same as if I now just going to quickly go up here, object, and you've got here, there's a command, create gradient mesh. Now, of course, you've already got a mesh. So if I just go to a completely different design there, just make that, object, create gradient mesh, and you can see what it does. It just does exactly the same, but obviously slightly more uniform in terms of creating it rows and columns, and it does it appearance flat and all that sort of stuff. Now I'm not using this, but it's exactly the same. But this just enables a little bit more free flowing. And now what you can do, you can select a point, you can select any of these points. Now that doesn't change the colour. If you've got, obviously I've been using green, but if it's just already orange or more orange than, just select it, and you can then, if you move it, you'll notice it moves around. Because I'm using this tool, just go over here to the selection tool. What you need to do is go to the direct selection tool. So direct selection tool, you can see it there with the group, direct selection tool. Now if I click there, you can see all those points that are associated with that crossover point there, all selected, and you can just move that. You can see you can distort it. Now it'd be quicker, or depending obviously if you add more and more points, there will be a point where it just gets too slow. And I found that anyway. But you simply can drag, and you will see the area of influence of that colour is dragged up. So if I just drag that continuous, You can see it. Now it will reach a certain point where it clashes with an existing node or mesh point, or what do you want to call it, or row or column. And you can do the same over there. You can drag it up to there. You can see you can just keep pulling it up, and it actually goes beyond as well. But obviously, unless I go up here and just drag that up, you can see that extends the area of that yellow upwards. And I can do that all the way up there. And I can do this at all the other points as well. So you can create all kinds of different shapes using this approach. Click there. And again, you can still, if you want, just go and add a solid colour there. Maybe green, or maybe blue, and so on and so on. You can just drag that up. And you can see as you drag that up, it extends the influence of that. You can squeeze it down. Now you can also get a sort of unusual folding action as it folds over. So you can create some very unusual designs, which, click that one, you can just drag that over and you can see that going underneath. So you can see you can create all kinds of very weird structures and unusual shapes using this approach. Now I can add a few more, just quickly add a few more. Select there. Now you can also, if you want, you can select more than one. So you can go and select, maybe, let's go over, select a few points, some points are not, and then I can drag a whole load of areas. So you can really distort it if you want to do that. Maybe just go over there, just select a bit more, and I can drag the whole lot. So you can see you can make some very, very unusual designs there. What you can also do, and I'm just going to now leave that mesh tool because I've created my mesh now, but you can of course modify this in other ways. And I'm just going to quickly go through some of them. So with this design, okay, it's not the world's greatest design. I mean, you might not think, you know what, that's pretty awful. Fact, well, yes, perhaps it is. But what you can do with it is a little bit more than that. What you can do, you can hold down the Alt or Option key, and you can duplicate it. You can rotate it, modify it, warp it, distort it, stretch it up like that. And you can still, of course, once you've done that direct selection tool, you can go and select maybe a point, just deselect there and then just drag. So you can create all kinds of different combinations of shapes and designs which can be overlaid. And you can also do exactly the same as with any other design. So if you actually go another one that's probably useful, window and properties. You've got properties there. Now you'll notice there the fill, you've got opacity and there, so you can click there, and you've got normal, so you can go difference. So you can actually see you can combine these designs as well. So again, go there if you want and select maybe that point, and you can see you can create all kinds of weird combinations on top of each other using these blending modes. Now personally, I generally don't use blending modes, but you can if you want to, and it's quite nice to actually direct selection tool. You can go here to opacity to create a sort of more painterly sort of design. So if you create a couple of them, so you can see it becomes really quite nice, beautiful design there. And you can, of course, move that, rotate that, and with that opacity, you can then create some very interesting abstract designs with different opacities. Maybe blending modes are not so great, but it's still a possibility if that's what you want. So I'm just going to remove those now. So you've got that design there. What you can do with that design, you can also use it as a great source for a pattern. So object, go down here. Now, quite a lot of the functionality will not work. Unfortunately, that would be really good if repeat would work, but radial, grid, unavailable. So pattern, you can make. And it comes up here, click OK, and you can see your design there. And you can resize it. You can also, again, hold down the Alt or Option key and duplicate that design and rotate it and modify it and create all kinds of really quite wonderful pattern designs. Obviously with a bit more time and care than I've just been applying, but there's the option. If you go to Navigator, you can just see it, that design there. So that's a great use as well. And you can save them, of course, save a copy, and they'll be saved to swatches. So you save a copy, click OK. I'm just going to cancel now. And you can see now if I go over here and I'm just going to select another shape. So just select that. It's got nothing in it. What I can do and select that. And you can see your design there that's got that meshing and likewise a previous one I've done. So with this design here, let's select that. What you can also do is you can recolor it. So if you want to, you don't want these colours, you're perfectly reasonable to change them. What you can do, edit menu, edit colours, and there's a recolor artwork. You've got options here, and you can run through and just change the colours. As you see, whoops, Illustrator just crashed. Well, anyway, that's always the way when you're demonstrating something. Well, I've got a completely different design now, but it's using exactly the same. So I've just created some additional using the mesh tool, but I've used an ellipse this time. What I've now got here, and this is the key thing, edit and colours and recolor artwork. So you can just display it just by doing that, recolor artwork, and you get this panel appears. Slightly different from usual actually with these panels, that there's no option, as far as I can see, to remove it. It's basically there. You'd think they'd have a sort of close feature. Most odd. Maybe someone can point out where it is or how you can do it. Maybe you press escape or something. However, that's not the point. What you can do, you can just go up here, the colour library, art history, maybe ancient, and you can see straight away the colours change. You can modify this and hopefully it doesn't crash this time. You can move that around and you can see you can create some very interesting colour designs. I always find the easiest way to remove it is just go to edit, edit colours and recolor artwork. Slightly odd. You have to go back to the command to get rid of it. Maybe there's an easier way. Who knows? Now, unfortunately, lots of the effects do not work with this. So you've got roughen, all these sort of things. So if I go here, effect, distort and transform, roughen, and you sort of change this, you've got the preview, see, nothing happens. It's just a pity that they don't. But you can use some tools that can roughen it up and change things. And it's over here. Just going to set the right, check the right one. That's the right one. Width tool. And I'm just going to go, you could use warp tool. You can also use twirl tool, pucker, and bloat, etc. I think crystallize is quite a nice one. So I'm just going to go with crystallize. And what you can do, just hover over here. Now, of course, if you add lots of points, you can create a really interesting design. So, but I'm just going to do it with this lot. So you can just see straight away by just using here, it actually adds some points anyway. So, and you can apply it on top of the surface. You can create some very interesting, unusual, painted-like effects. So instead of a very nice smooth design, you've now got this sort of, and of course you can always modify the settings here and maybe change the width, change the intensity. You want for 90, and change the width to 200. And you can see you can create even more. And of course what you can also do, you can still go hold down the Alter Option key and duplicate the design. So you can see there. Now of course the more you add, it will get slower and slower. There's a lot of points here, lots of different colour, and you know it's quite complex. I'll do that in a minute. One of the error reports. Why didn't it come up earlier? I love the way it just popped up randomly about 10-15 minutes later. You think, wouldn't it come up straight away? I will answer that in a sec. So what you can do, of course, who knows? So you can change that, and of course you can go over here and you can still continue, maybe one of the other ones as well. You can use maybe twirl. So you can just twirl it and do various other effects. Now I have to say, it's probably best to save your document if you're doing this fairly quite often, because it's one of those things that it'll probably crash again. I always find the more and more points I seem to add, it seems to get really quite slow, and it always sort of teeters on, will it do it or not? Shouldn't be like that, I know, but there always seems to be. So you've got your design there, and you can see you can create some very abstract and wonderful paint-like effects for this. And of course you can still use blending modes. So if you want to, you can still go to Window and down here to Properties. And you've got here, you've got opacity. You can still go over here and maybe go to, say, 53% or whatever, and just create some very unusual sort of combinations of these designs. And, well, obviously with a bit of work, a bit of time and effort spent on it, you can create some beautiful designs with this approach. Now, of course, what you can also do, and this is the useful thing as well, you've got window and you've got libraries. So if you want to, you can always drag the design over into your library. Once you've done that, you can use this design in Photoshop. Now, I haven't got Photoshop running at this moment, so I'm not going to do that. But you could use it in Photoshop. And then, of course, once it's in Photoshop, you can apply all kinds of different effects, distort it, combine it in many different ways as a layer, as a smart object, add adjustments, and many more things as well. So that's just a run through of a whole load of different things. And of course, there are a few other tools that can be useful. But actually, sadly, oh, there's one, Make with Warp. That's another one before I just stop the video. So envelope distort, and that's why I just wanted to point out there are a few, but not many. So Make with Warp. Or you can make with mesh, so you can really confuse yourself. So you end up with obviously the mesh tool, creating this mesh, but you can also add a mesh on top of that. So make with mesh. Now this probably will crash it. No, it's not, but I'm just going to go with 4 and 4. You push it too much if you go for 20 and 20, lots and lots of points, the thing will just slow down. Maybe you've got a better machine than I have. I mean, my machine just gets to the point where it gets too slow. So you've got your mesh here, and now you can distort it. And it probably will take, now I'm just using again, key thing here is the direct selection tool. Just go over here, and you can see you can select a point there, and then you can distort it. But it probably will be painfully slow as it distorts. And you can go there. You can see the result of it. But you can, with a bit of time and energy, move things as long as it allows you to do it. Otherwise, it will beep like that. But you've got the mesh and you can do it. For some weird reason, I've created a situation where it obviously does not like me to move anything. So I'm just going to go over this one. No, it's given up. But you can see the mesh, and it does. I have actually done it. For this one, it just does not like it for some weird reason. So now, because I want to prove it, I'm just going to remove this. So I do like to, if I've said that it does, I would like to show you that it does. So I'm just going to quickly go back to a completely fresh document. Now, weirdly, once you've been using the mesh and you've got all those colours, it creates this grey colour. I don't know why it doesn't just use the last colour you used, but it always goes back to this default grey. So again, just go over here to the mesh tool and just add a point. Now I'm just going to quickly change one colour. Don't make it too complicated. Change another one there. And then you've got that design there. And then what you can do, going with that selected, object menu, and go down to envelope distort and make with mesh. You could use make with warp, make with top object, perfectly reasonable as well, but make with mesh. And I've got that mesh there now. And what I can do, again, direct selection tool, select that, and you can see at that point you can distort it now using direct selection. So it does work. It's just for some weird reason, because of the complexity, it just will reject it. You'll just get that beep. It says, nope, I'm not going to move. Not certain why, but it just refuses to distort that design. You can create all kinds of weird and wonderful shapes using this approach. And then, of course, you can always, once you've decided, you can keep with mesh, of course, you don't have to, but you can always, with this, object and expand. So you can always go back to there and click OK. And now you've still got the standard mesh. So you've got here your mesh. If you go over to the mesh tool again, there's the mesh tool. Here's the color mesh. It's still there. You can move that out, move that around, click there, maybe go for red. And you can see, so that's still active, still available to modify. And again, once you've done that, of course, what you can do, if you want to, you can always go to object, and again, down to envelope distort, make with warp, or make with mesh. Actually, I quite like that one, make with mesh. Let's go for that one. You can see you just use the standard meshes there. So you can create distortions of this design in all kinds of weird and wonderful ways. click OK. And again, object and expand if you want to do that. And again, you still use the mesh tool as well afterwards. Oops, wrong one. Let's get the right one. Quite often you look at these and you think, oh, there it is, the mesh tool. Not helpful using the shape builder tool. So mesh tool there, and again you can still manipulate these designs. And you can of course manipulate the design with the mesh tool anyway, but I just wanted to show you, you can use the mesh warp and things in combination as well as the standard mesh there. Well, I hope you found this tutorial of interest. My apologies for some glitches along the way. Obviously it crashed and various other things, and you can push the tools to a certain point where, and then it just will not go. I don't know why, but that's the way it works. So my apologies for that. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. I'm always adding new tutorials about Illustrator, obviously Photoshop, Critter, Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, and many others. Also, please subscribe to Graphic X channel. Always adding 1 or 2, near enough every day or so. And also a dislike or like. Always great. And thank you much.